Nick Fuentes, he beat Joe Rogan to the number one spot on Spotify. And then Spotify, well, they removed him. And I don't know what's more of an entertaining question to ask as in terms of why did so many people flock to Nick Fuentes and Nick Fuentes' show? Or is this really a debate about what kind of moderation these platforms have and what their ability is to shut down free speech, or whether or not really we just go back to Israel, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. I mean, there's so much going on right now. Aaron, you have a little bit more of the kind of breakdown for us. You want to go for it?
Yeah, so Nick is not exactly known by everyone. I'm sitting next to Jim. He has no idea who Nick Fuentes is. So for those who don't know who Nick Fuentes is, Nick Fuentes is probably the most controversial political figure in America right now, simply because he's taken a very hard stance on just being America first. That's the name of his show. He's a young man. He burst into the scene really recently, and he started off kind of as this obscure character on a platform called Cozy TV. And I kind of caught wind of him. I'm not even really sure. I think it was Rumble that introduced me to him, and I just remember him coming across very angry and very articulate. He has a very big gift of communication, and he's able to articulate very highly complex political ideas in a way that I think everybody can understand. And he's very well researched. He has the receipts. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And I've come to endear Nick because I think this dude's the real guy. I think he means what he says what he means. And what is it about Nick Fuentes that is so controversial? Well, number one, he's unapologetically America first, and his probably number one issue is being unapologetically opposed to our immigration policy. He wants everybody to, I mean, he wants legal and illegal immigration to be slowed down tremendously. He's asking for mass deportations. He's been critical of President Trump. He doesn't toe the line in the similar fashion that you would hear MAGA influencers or conservative pundits talk about issues. So he's somebody that definitely colors outside of the lines. Just to kind of give you an idea, Nick Fuentes was the number one podcast in America for like 5 minutes before he was pulled.
It was 32 minutes.
For 32
So
minutes.
at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, he officially dethroned Joe Rogan. And then all of a sudden at 3:47 p.m., anyone that tried to access the page was seeing a 404 error. It had been just deleted. Spotify's press team, when pressed, offered the same boilerplate response they always do. We don't comment on individual content decisions. That was their response. Seems a little like, if you're going to erase the number one podcaster in the country, you'd think that we'd get an explanation as to why. And you'd think that Spotify would know that just giving a boilerplate answer, we don't comment on individual content decisions. I mean, Spotify does not remove majority of the absolute crap that exists online today and the crap that exists in our music, but yet they will just get rid of Nick Fuentes.
Right. Well, he's America first nationalism. He's a strong advocate for prioritizing the interest, culture, and demographic integrity of the United States. He calls himself a racialist as opposed to a racist. And what that means to Nick Fuentes is that race, similar, and he references Pat Buchanan, isn't everything, but it's not nothing. We are all tribal. We all come from a certain culture, a certain tribe, and he believes strongly in the Anglo-American Caucasian tribe, and he basically stands on that. And as you all know, it is incredibly politically unpopular to be boldly a pro-white nationalist, especially as a Christian. And he claims that the United States is, and for the white people, for white Americans, this is their country. because I'm not white, so I can say their country. He prioritizes the interest, culture, and demographic integrity of the United States, which means he's incredibly critical of globalism. He's critical of mass immigration, foreign interventionism, and he's arguing that these policies are undermining American sovereignty and identity. He's been very critical of what I call MAGA Inc. He calls it Conservatism Inc., which is, conservative mainstream figures. He craps on Dennis Prager. He crapped on Charlie Kirk. He craps on Candace Owens. He actually was interviewed by Candace Owens and went to town with her. Riveting interview. I would recommend watching it. Dennis Prager, he goes after those people harder than the left. Wow. And as you know, in conservative circles, it's not popular to do that. You're not supposed to be waging friendly fire. You're supposed to go after the left. And he doesn't spend a lot of time criticizing the left. He goes after the American right. He's a big proponent of traditional Christian values. He always talks about family, patriarchy, moral order. He's very opposed to the LGBTQ ideology, feminism, as what he sees as cultural degeneracy. He expresses doubt about the effectiveness of liberal democracy. He actually is more of a proponent of authoritarianism that can uphold national and cultural values without compromise. He does get into a lot of discussion on history and demographic trends. He talks about something that Charlie Kirk, may his soul rest in peace, was not willing to talk about, which was the Great Replacement Theory, which is this idea that the United States is being flooded and has been flooded by millions of illegals that don't share our values, don't share our culture, don't share our language, and that's being done by design to replace white people as the predominant culture and tribe in this country. So he's talking about things that I think are in 2028, 2029, which is preserving Western civilization and its Christian foundations. But drum roll, please. The number one issue he's most critical of is Israel. He believes that we are an occupied nation.
So I brings me back to, and I can't remember what the guy's name was. Who was the guy that got kicked off the radio and went to Sirius? More liberal dude. Got kicked off the radio, Sirius gave him a show. And he was kind of like he spawned the era of satellite radio.
So he's kicked off radio and
kicked off radio. Sirius, the satellite radio company, gave him a show and then basically used him
in the 90s?
What?
In the 90s?
No, this was like the 2000s. I can even picture his
long hair
face. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Howard Stern? I don't know.
Yes, Howard Stern. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, okay.
Who's a Jew?
Jim's useful. All right.
I am.
That's why we keep him around. So, anyways, that was a little off track, but not really, because it's on track. But it brings back up this idea, and I'm going to go back to this for a second, that what these companies have done is they've created a public square. And when you create a public square, you have to allow for First Amendment rights to ensue. And over the last couple of years, I've become even more hardened that these businesses are creating a public square. They're doing so because then they can cash in on a ton of advertising that they throw mid-roll in this video, that they throw mid-roll in a Spotify video, or a Spotify audio, that they throw in the midst of your Facebook feeds, your Instagram feeds, your X posts. You're being swarmed with advertising, and these companies are making bank off of it because they've created a space for open dialogue, but then they cut off what they don't like. And so the question comes back to, did you create a public square? And if you did, then do you have to allow for some of these more incendiary remarks and these more aggressive creators to go after your prized boy of Joe Rogan, etc.? And that's not to say that I hate Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan's show. It's a little long most of the time. I want him to cut it down a little bit. But either way, free speech has to apply in these settings. I mean, if you're Spotify and you've allowed creators to publish free of charge, publish whatever they want, and you don't moderate what goes on in your platform until all of a sudden you do, because why? Somebody all of a sudden becomes number one on your platform and you don't like his views?
Well, it's so revealing because they allow the most raunchiest, most disgusting, most godless forms of content on Spotify. I mean, listen to the music. Listen to some of this new rap music that's out that's constantly promoting drug use, constantly
I
promoting
don't know. I don't use Spotify.
beating women up. That the same people that control these platforms also own OnlyFans, where we can basically indoctrinate millions of our young women into essentially pornography and then destroy a culture through OnlyFans. But yet Nick Fuentes calling out U.S. policy saying, quote, "We're sending our sons and daughters to die in deserts for a country that doesn't care about us, for a people who hate us, and it's all because a certain lobby in Washington has our politicians on a leash." That is more dangerous to the gatekeepers than OnlyFans and rap that promotes codeine and gang violence. No. They're not interested in being protective of our values or somehow being the moral police. They're blocking Nick Fuentes because his ideas are dangerous and he's exposing a lot of truth to what's actually happening in this country. You know, Stu Peters is in the same vein as Nick Fuentes, and I think he has said we are under occupation by a foreign country. When you have 90+% of Congress with an AIPAC babysitter and they get their money from AIPAC, and the freshman class, as Marjorie Taylor Greene just recently told us, is sent to Israel to meet Benjamin Netanyahu and get the talk, I think that is an indicator that this country has been occupied by the Israeli foreign lobby.
They got to go get talked to when they're brand new.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is claiming that Congress is sent to Israel, their first year in Congress, to get the talking.
I want to loop back to your Nick Fuentes guy or whatever. I liked most of the things about him, but racial.
He calls himself a racialist. So what does he?
I'm gonna say like that's the only thing I seem to have a problem with, because I don't know about everybody else. Skin color to me is just like hair color. I don't really give two shakes about any of that crap. But
I mean, I would like to go to the conversation of this creation of protected classes to begin with, because there should not be any sort of like protected class from rhetoric that is not inciting violence, not inciting harm. And we're seeing that these protected classes against rhetoric keep growing in the United States, which is hindering free speech. So, you know, you're limited in what you can say when it comes to the LGBTQ alphabet mafia agenda. You're limited what you can say when it comes to Israel. Back, 10 years ago, you were limited with what you could do or what you could say about Muslims, right? Like, we have created these protected classes not from discrimination, but from rhetoric. And that's the problem, is that regardless of where you stand, everybody in the United States can and should be open to, or open themselves to, criticism. I'm criticized all the time. I can tell you that white man, conservative, evangelical is not a protected class from criticism or from rhetoric.
Nobody is. It's freedom of speech for everybody, or there's no freedom of speech, period. It's like all freedoms and rights. It's for everybody or it's for nobody. That's just the way it goes. But I was just saying with the thing, I wasn't, it didn't sound great.
Well,
I'm not saying that with anything, but
you don't know enough about it.
And I don't know.
Let me explain.
You just told me who Nick Fuentes was like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, being a racist encompasses several core beliefs, according to Nick Fuentes. He does not back away from the term racist. He actually was asked that question by Candace Owens. Are you a racist, Nick? And he said, yes, I am. And allow me to explain. He explains race as a biological and cultural reality. He rejects this modern progressive notion that race is a social construct that has no basis in biology. And he actually points to people of African descent as not being as advanced as white Europeans based on historical evidence, that when the Europeans came to Africa, they barely had a wheel at the time, and Europe had far surpassed Africa in terms of technological advancement. So he says there are biological and genetic differences between the races. And he's not saying that, from my interpretation, from a position of hate, but from a position arguing from a biological reality and a historical account. He advocates for white Americans and Europeans to develop a positive racial consciousness, to take pride in their heritage and identity in the same way that other ethnic groups do, which I have to agree with. I don't understand why we get Cinco de Mayo and, Black Day and Gay Month and all these other things, but yet 70% of the country, which is of European descent, Anglo-Saxon, they don't seem to get anything in the country that they built and founded to celebrate European heritage. A racialist worldview posits that the individuals inherently prioritize the interests of their own racial group and argues that this is normal and natural state of human affairs. So he points to the strong ethnic networking and advocacy that Jews enjoy and have been enjoying for hundreds of years. I know that this is very true within Middle Eastern culture. I have a lot of Middle Eastern friends. They work together, and he's critical of the fact that white Americans don't work together the same way that other groups do. He's critical of white families in America sending their kids off to college at 18 and not allowing them to get a head start. He's actually opposed to race mixing and demographic change. He's very critical of blacks marrying whites, Hispanics marrying Asians. He says, I want to marry a white woman because I want my kids and my grandkids to look like me. I personally have no issues with anything that he said at all.
Well, so
I don't really like it. I'm not gonna lie.
That's okay.
I just don't like it. And
What is it that you don't like about it?
I don't know. It does sound pretty freaking racist, man. It sounds pretty much like.
But beside that point, let's take it back to the point that even if you don't like it,
no, I'm just saying he can say what he wants to say, but it's just like I can say what I want to say.
Removed from the internet.
I didn't say you should be removed from the internet.
And I think that the problem is that these social constructs that have been created, which, by the way, a social construct is something that basically the vast majority of the public have collectively agreed is true, even though it may not be true. For instance, there's more than two genders. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So gender is a social construct. No, you all are just idiots, right? You all failed biology class. But it goes back to, do they have the right to publish online or to publish in a public square or to speak freely in a public square their ideas that more than two genders exist? Yes.
Everybody should be able to speak.
You should be able to speak freely about whatever it is you want to speak on. The problem with guys like Nick Fuentes is that not the speech, but the idea that if Nick Fuentes wants to really change minds, he's doing so in a very aggressive manner, and it's causing him a lot of hatred from every side of the aisle. And so there's a good chunk of people that are flocking to Nick Fuentes because they hate the uniparty. They hate the idea that only two parties exist in the United States, and they hate the fact that
a lot of people hate
media split between two sides, and he wants to form a third group and a third rhetoric that can be seen and can be watched. And that's why I think people are flocking to Nick Fuentes. Not to say that everything that comes out of Nick Fuentes' mouth is good, not that it's charitable, not that it's helpful, not that it's beneficial, not that it's accurate, right? But that's why he gained some traction, but that's also why he's garnered so much hate. And I'm not saying that the garnering of hate is necessarily bad.
Well, I think what he's doing is he's channeling the anger of a lot of Americans right now. I think when he said, this is the price of our patience running out, referring to Charlie Kirk's assassination, I think what he's doing is he's putting a marker in history and saying, we're done. We're done playing nice. We, the American people, our good graces, our patience is over. We're going to take back our country. And we're not going to apologize how we do it. And I have to empathize with Nick being angry because I think a lot of us are angry. When I have to go spend, $200 at Costco just to get a few items, that makes me angry. When I see Venezuelans running around Colorado Springs, not sharing my cultural values, being rude, being disrespectful, not learning the language, I get angry. I don't think anger is a bad thing. Patrick Bet David had Nick Fuentes on recently and told him to calm down. Maybe you're going about it a certain way. You know, Patrick Bet David was trying to play this sort of objective, calming parent role of maybe your message and maybe your tonality is the wrong way. They did the same thing to Kanye West when he was coming out and bringing the receipts on how the music industry was captured by Israeli interests and Jews. They told him to calm down, and Kanye says, you don't want Kanye, you want a Kanye. Well, you didn't get a Kanye. Jesus himself was told to calm down when he was flipping tables, when the Pharisees were getting upset with him that you're not acting in a righteous manner. I was told when I was kicked out of New Life Church recently, and I approached Senior Pastor Daniel Grothy about why are they protecting pedophiles, because New Life Church protects pedophiles. I wasn't kicked out of my small group or church because or I was kicked out of church because of the way that I approached the senior pastor and the fact that I spoke out. Nobody was interested in the fact of, did a child actually get hurt? No. It was the way Aaron handled it that was the problem. This weekend, I had
to us all the time with it.
I had my mother and father with me, and we were discussing some relational dysfunction in our family. And I was getting angry because a lot of injustice had occurred to me and I was being treated unfairly. That made me angry. My mother told me, you have an anger problem. You need to calm down. You know what? I don't think anger's a problem, because in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, it says, be angry. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger. The great Andrew Breitbart wrote a book called Righteous Indignation. He was angry, and I point to Andrew Breitbart as the spark that started the conservative movement, the recent conservative movement, and the predecessor to Donald Trump, which was the Tea Party. That was born out of anger, okay? You go throughout history, and you have empires being conquered. They were not calm. They were angry because their children were being brought into slavery, their wives were being captured, everything that they worked for, their land and their resources, were being stolen from them. It sparked anger amongst those. So I don't think that now's the time to tell people to calm down. We didn't ask for the fight. The fight came here, and Nick Fuentes, I think, is an expression of the culture that is very angry right now, and rightfully so. So I have no problem, and I have no problem with Nick Fuentes' anger, and I'm not going to police his tonality.
I think that when it comes to scripture, we see a lot of conversation about anger, and I think because anger leads us to decision making that is oftentimes poor, and so this idea of like a controlled anger or really a fight for righteousness, I think it goes back to this, and and Paul says it so often that whatever you do, do in love, right? And so anger. The emotion of anger and what it can do to us and how we handle it is two different things, right? The emotion of anger to unrighteousness that is called out to us to call out the unrighteousness, but do so in love. That's the key. And that's the point that I think sometimes we forget, is that when we are calling out or rebuking unrighteous behavior, unrighteousness, that we do so in love. I mean, would you agree, Aaron?
Yes, I would agree to do it in love, because but I say, when you say do it in love, I think you're referring to the motivation, not the way in which it's expressed. Because when you express anger, it's one-sided. It's aggressive.
But I mean, if you're throwing punches, all right, you could say my motivation is in love, but you're throwing punches.
Yeah, and that could be in self-defense. Like, that's the reason why the Bible differentiates murder from killing, right? This is, there's a difference to kill and there's a difference to murder. You could kill someone in self-defense, and the law and the Bible would deem it as acceptable, and murder is not acceptable in the eyes of the law and murder. Same thing with anger. When you say do it in love, you could be getting angry as an American because your country's been occupied, your children don't have a future, your currency's being debased, your nation's being invaded with foreign invaders, your culture is being destroyed through degeneracy. You get angry because you love truth, you love your children, you love the country that you were born in. I mean, I was born in 1981. I got to see what America used to be. I used to be able to ride my bike miles and miles and miles and not have my parents worry about pedophiles. Today, I cannot do that. My children cannot live in the country that I grew up in. That makes me angry. And no, I'm not, like Nick Fuentes, I'm not going to apologize for being angry for that. And yes, I love Jesus.
No, I hear you. I think out of everybody with anger things, I think I'm probably the most familiar with anger. So it's being productive with the anger. No, I don't like Nick Fuentes that I've just been introduced to. Yes, I think he's a sack of crap, and I think he's just a freaking caricature, if you will. I don't like the racy stuff because my kids are mixed. That's what makes me angry about it, if you want to know. All right? I don't care about mixing races or whatever the hell. I'm all about America first, taking care of our country. 100%. The rest of it just sounds like a freaking monster truck show and thing. Should he have been pulled off Spotify? No. Let him do his thing. Let him do his run. Let's see what happens with all that crap. You can be angry, but you can be freaking productive with it too and actually do something, make something, build something. I'm not mad at you at all about standing up at New Life Church. Screw New Life Church. As far as I'm concerned, I hope lightning strikes it and it burns down. I don't care. They want to protect diaper sniffers? Screw them. You want to be angry about that? Good. I'm angry about that all the damn time. Yes, I'm tired of people telling me, calm down with this, calm down with that. I'm not a complacent, which makes me complicit person. That's not what I do with any of it. All right? I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fan of your Nick Fuentes guy. You can be the fan of it all you want. We're still friends. I like it. We're good people. We have good things. Being angry is not the problem. It's what you do with your anger. Are you going to be productive and build and change and shape things? I get what you mean, because I'm tired of doing business and having to have 12 different licenses and tax things and this and that. And, oh, it's a business. So guess what? Your utilities cost more every month with access fees and BS and charge you. But then anybody else from anywhere else can just start selling crap and not have to do anything and nobody's in trouble. And I'm like, why am I following the damn rules? Yes, it makes me angry. But just be productive with your anger. Nick Fuentes, no, don't like him. Should he stayed on Spotify? Yes. Should they have pulled him? No. Let him be on Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are upset with Nick not because of the way he's delivering it, because what he's saying. He's allowing people to connect the dots. He's pointing to all of the degeneracy in the culture, not to this vague notion of the American left or liberals, and to this loose idea of who the enemy is. Because in a fog of war, if you're able to confuse us in identifying who that enemy is, we're not able to properly address this. And I think what makes Nick dangerous is he's connecting the dot between Jewish leadership and Jewry to mass immigration, demographic replacement, globalization, and foreign wars. He's pointing to the fact that Larry Fink, the CEO and chairman of BlackRock, is a Jew. He's pointing to the fact that Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, who's behind all of this upcoming surveillance state with the social credit system score, and is Jewish. He's pointing to the fact that Peter Thiel and Palantir are Jew-run. He's talking about the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and he's got a tiny hat on. And that's what Nick is saying, and that's upsetting people. And it's waking me up, because when I'm fact-checking this guy, it's actually true. Almost all of these institutions in government, in business, in corporations are Jew-run. These are people that have dual citizenship to Israel. They're practicing Judaism. And this is a problem.
I don't care which country. Nobody should have dual citizenship and being a part of any of the governments of any country.
And he stood
not here
against the genocide in Gaza. And that was very unpopular on the right, because we were told that we evangelical Christians in the United States must stand by Israel no matter what, because the biblical definition of Israel is the nation state that was started in the 1940s, which is a complete lie. It's a theological heresy is what it is. Israel is not the nation state, the genocidal ethno state. It is the new covenant, the people of God that were bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. That is the new Israel, not the Likud party and the Zionists behind Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm saying this at great risk, because what I'm saying right now is incredibly unpopular, but I'm saying it for the same reason Nick Fuentes is saying it. I think it's the truth. I think it's true. And I can talk to you some of his quotes on his positions on U.S. foreign policy, and you guys tell me if you disagree with this. This is what he said on dual loyalty. They have a phrase, never forget, never forgive, referring to the Jews. They have an identity and loyalty to their tribe first and foremost. Meanwhile, they lecture us about how having an identity, having a homeland, having borders is racist. It's the most stunning double standard in the world. Would you guys agree?
America as a whole has created the culture, this idea of social constructs, has created an identity crisis in every American, right? In every walk of life. It's created an identity crisis. People don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what they stand for. They are trying to find what they truly believe, and they're trying to find the truth in the midst of this absolutely catastrophic social war that's going on. That's what I believe. And so the people that are flocking to guys like Nick Fuentes, the people that flock to QAnon, right? Because it's a very similar ideology, right? The people that
Reddit.
that were flocking to Anonymous, right? Back when that was going on. All of these kind of like outspoken, quote unquote, heroes, social media influencers, people are flocking to them because they're trying to find out who they are and what they believe.
Sure.
And they're trying to get that little bit of truth that may exist. I think that majority of Americans have become more conspiratorial than ever before and
skeptical.
And there's a little bit of truth in every conspiracy because there has to be a beginning to the conspiracy. And oftentimes that conspiracy has found itself to be more true than not. When you look at everything with COVID, everything that's gone on in the last 20 years, all the people that said JFK was, we don't believe the story.
Right.
That's all of a sudden proven right. I mean, next thing you know, we're going to have proof that we didn't land on the moon. Like, that is where we are heading as a country, is that everybody's going, I'm skeptical that I'm not being told the truth. I now believe that the government does not have my best interest in mind. I now believe that everything that the government tells me may not be true. I now believe that what my teachers tell me may not be true. I now believe that what the doctors tell me may not be in my best interest. This is what is going on in the United States, and this is why people like Nick Fuentes are becoming popular, because people are going, I don't believe what you're telling me. I'm going to go try to search for some element of truth. Now, the caveat to that is the truth is in Scripture, it's in the Bible, and it's available to every single one of you for free on the internet.
Yeah, well, we don't live in a country where we support free speech anymore, because Spotify clearly doesn't agree with our values. And last time I checked, it was a German company. But I'll
yeah, that makes more sense.
I would present his quote on media influence. Who owns the media? He asks. Who controls the narrative? It's not a conspiracy theory; it's a fact. They use that power to shatter our culture, attack our faith, and destroy our people. I mean, would you agree that that's what the media is doing?
I'd say it's bought and paid for, and it's got its own freaking messaging and its own thing and its own agenda. Yeah, I don't participate in a lot of the cultural wars and nonsensical things personally. And yes, I'm skeptical and cynical of anything said to me. I want to triple check and see. I and you probably have our best interest in our own minds, not somebody else we don't know. It's like, to me, it's always like investing in the market, right? The people in charge of the market, they don't give two shakes about you. Sometimes them burning and roasting some whatever it may be helps them over here. So killing this that you invested in and destroying it, because they don't care, makes this way more profitable for them over here that they got money in too. And they only got all the shares of this to control this and destroy that to make this more profitable. Yeah. And I think a lot of the government and that kind of stuff and the media is the same way, because they ain't got your interest at heart. You're poking and prodding. And I think with what Lupo was saying too, the people don't know their purpose no more.
Yeah.
And they look for it. I think I agree what he was trying to say or starting to say was that people are looking for their purpose in others and things instead of looking at it in themselves or in the Bible, like you guys are saying and stuff, and they just trying to find their own place a lot of times, and it does do
Well,
a lot of that.
it goes back to secular humanism, right? Like the idea that all of a sudden, number one, that you can find yourself. That's the number one lie that our culture has believed. This is what spurred on the whole religion of Scientology. The idea that you can become so in tune with yourself and so understanding of who you are. It's this like quest to find me. And all you're going to do is end up more and more and more confused and more susceptible to giving in to the ways of the world and being fluent with culture.
Being manipulated and guided in a shape and a manner that benefits some other entity or establishment. Yeah. No, I get you. I don't know, man. I always tell everybody, find your own point and purpose. You figure yourself out yourself. Don't look for it in other people. That doesn't help usually, or entities or organizations. I don't think that's optimal.
Well, I think it's important.
I'm not going to look for it in Nick Fuentes. I'm going to find, I have my own point and purpose. I know where I belong and how I belong and what. I don't need to look for it in other people. I think other people need to realize that too. I think it's somebody trying to find the fast route to feeling special or unique sometimes too. Trying to find their point and purpose in others or some of that stuff sometimes.
Well, he's got a very controversial position on AIPAC, and we've discussed this at length. AIPAC is the most powerful lobby in Washington. He's quoted on AIPAC's goals as saying the entire purpose of AIPAC is to subvert the American government and make it a slave to foreign power. They don't care about America.
The purpose of any donation,
they only
from
care
any
about
organization
Israel.
in
Their motto
politics.
should be America last.
Every one of them
So
is
he's
like that.
Going after AIPAC
Good.
head on. And that is a very problematic for him, because if you're the most deep-pocketed, most powerful interest group in the United States, you can make sure that Nick Fuentes gets banned from Spotify.
But you know what? He better go after all of the special interests. All of them. How about that? How about go after all of them? Because they all have the same freaking end goal. Whatever their special interest may be. They're investing in a bunch of shill turds in suits that are just politicians to get the way that they want and what they want and how they want. It's not yours or mine interest or our freedoms that they're getting.
Well, he's pointing to facts that were basically whitewashed with conservative ink. We never heard Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Dennis Prager or any of these conservative influencers talk about white replacement theory. They never questioned AIPAC. They never questioned dual loyalty. They never questioned U.S. foreign policy with respect to sending billions to Israel specifically.
But Tucker Carlson did. Candace Owens did.
Recently.
But give
We're
credit where
for it.
credit's due, right? These are guys, once again, that
Working for companies.
that we grew up. We have entire generations that grew up with this ideology, with this Zionistic ideology. And so the ones that are turning course, like Charlie Kirk was starting to, like Candace Owens has, like Tucker Carlson has, like we need to give them credit for the fact that they are looking outside of what was basically brainwashed into them for their entire lives. And so Nick Fuentes is probably in the same boat to a certain degree. Obviously, we don't have any like knowledge of what he was before he became a podcaster and influencer, what his views were on Israel before that point, or if he even had any, right? A majority of Americans don't even understand why this conversation is important. A majority of Americans don't understand the AIPAC's influence in American politics. And so you have an education battle in your hands because you have to look at everyday citizens who are struggling just to stay alive and pay the bills and too busy. They're not out on the streets protesting because, well, they're working
to live, and you got to work all the time to eat now.
And so you have to tell all those people that it is important for them to pay attention to this message on why AIPAC's involvement in the U.S. is wrong and why it's hurting you. And that's the challenge, is that when Americans are, or when any culture, when any group of people are struggling just to stay alive, and they don't see the importance of understanding why it's important, they don't care. And when they don't care, they tend to just fall back on what has been ingrained in their brains, and that becomes the status quo. And so from a standpoint of how do you change this, you have to get the American people on board to change it, to go, hey, who's being funded by AIPAC? Let's make sure that we do not vote for those individuals. And we're not at that place in this country right now. We're trying to get to that place, and that place is very far away. And I'm not saying it can't be achieved, but it's not in close quarters.
But if you want to get it achieved, you have to get it to where everybody isn't so busy and so tired and exhausted and burned out day to day that they have time to give a shake.
No, they're going to care. It's like every revolution that takes place around the globe, right? They're at that point where they're struggling to stay alive up until the point that they're fed up, tired, and pissed off, and want to know why.
Back to anger.
They're in that. Why they're in that boat.
Yeah, I have no problem with anything Nick Fuentes has ever said. I think he has every right to be angry. I think he's channeling not only the pent-up anger amongst natural-born American citizens who are watching their country die, but he's tapping into the game of connect the dots. He's now bringing receipts. He's now providing answers that MAGA Inc., Conservative Inc. simply couldn't provide prior. We were given vagueness like the left, the Democrats, progressives, the banks, the 1%. But now he's naming names. He's naming Larry Ellison, Larry Fink, the AIPAC, the Anti-Defamation League. He's pointing to historical events. He's contrasting American values with the actions that have been taken by this president and this Congress. So I think that this is just another example of somebody who's exposing the truth, and the oligarchs do not like it, and he's attempted to be silenced. And I hope that this gives birth to 1,000 Nick Fuentes.
Well, I'm going to challenge you. Go find 5 things you don't like about this guy, because nobody likes everything that everybody does. That makes me more skeptical of him, just you saying that.
He really likes
don't
baseball.
Have any problem.
I don't like
with
baseball that
anything
much.
He says something serious. Find something serious.
You don't like baseball up until the point that the Dodgers are in a clear path to the World Series championships.
Yeah, I no, I agree with you.
I didn't know baseball's even on right now.
No, I'm sure there's something that.
No, find some stuff you don't like about him, because on your own end. I don't want you just blindly following some ding ding.
I don't blindly follow anybody.
I heard that partial clip earlier, and I was like, it just sounds like a freaking monster truck rally, dude. So, I don't know, take that for what it is, but go find 5 or 10 things you don't like about him. That are serious things, not baseball, but real things, he said. Because
it's hard. It's hard, Jim, because he's right on foreign policy in Israel. I don't think that we should.
He's not the
fight
only one right
sports.
about. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't give 2 shakes about what's going on in other countries anymore.
Well,
I don't. The Marine in me, the overworked, overtaxed guy in me, the father in me, the uncle in me, the tired, exhausted guy in me. I don't give 2 shakes anymore about what nonsense is going on around in the world, and that we shouldn't be throwing any money out to it, because we got roads and bridges falling apart. We're all going broke. We're all tired. We're exhausted. It's not fun. It's not good. I'm not enjoying any of this anymore. I don't think a lot of people are enjoying any of it anymore. I agree. But he's not the only one saying it, okay? I just don't like his racist crap, honestly. I really don't like his racist crap, and that makes me extra cynical and extra skeptical of the guy.
What do you don't like about his racist crap specifically? Mixed racing?
Who cares? I'm about the country first. There's lots of different Americans. I don't give.
What is it that you don't like about his racist position?
My kids are mixed, dude. I take it kind of personal.
You take it personal.
I do. I don't like it one bit. It makes me want to fight the man, honestly. It makes me want to take my anger out, because I don't like racist. I hate racist. I really do. You come act racist to my kids and say some racist crap, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah.
100% I'm going to fight you. I'm going to win, too. I don't tolerate that kind of crap. I'm a very intolerant to the BS type of person.
What if I tell you I'm racist?
So that's your thing. Just don't be racist.
You have a problem with me if I'm racist?
I don't like racist. Are you racist?
You have a problem with me if I'm racist?
I do have a problem with you if you're racist.
Yeah? What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna fight you.
You're gonna fight me because of the way I feel. So you're gonna enact physical violence on me because of my positions? No. So you're gonna threaten me with
So,
physical violence
look-
because of my viewpoints?
If you act racist to my kids, I will fight you.
What would that look like? What would that look like?
Well, just don't say anything racist to my kids, dude.
Nick
That's
Fuentes
easy.
that's my point. He's not saying anything racist to your children. He's talking about the role of race and how it's tribal and how people are better off marrying people in their own
He
tribe
can have his own opinion
so
to
that
do
they
that.
can preserve culture.
What culture? Which culture we preserve?
Whichever, like I married a Mexican woman because I wanted my kids to speak Spanish
Okay, good.
and I wanted my children to look like me.
Got you.
So
Have
is
that.
that's what I'm saying, Jim. You're saying you want to fight people over that. That's
If you're gonna be racist to my kids, I'll fight you. Yeah,
But
I don't
that's
like racist, dude. I
Jim,
just don't like them.
That's not what he's doing though. He's not calling your kids names because of the color of their skin. And that's why I want to have this conversation.
So he's gonna
with-
say I did something wrong because my son's half Vietnamese and all the mixed up crap that I am. Is anybody pure anything? No, it's kind of stupid, dude.
well, race is Asian, Hispanic, white, black.
Okay, I got
That's race. And then there's ethnicity. So that's I think the point that people misunderstand Nick for.
You're not gonna sell me on your Nick Fuentes crap.
That's fine. No, I just
He's not
want
the only one fighting against freaking special interest and crap.
nobody
I'm
said
not-
he was
I'm
the only
just-
one.
Yeah, no, I got you.
He's just-
Find something you don't like about the guy.
He's just the best doing it right now.
I guess.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have took him off Spotify. I'll agree with you on that. Let him
Okay.
say what he's gonna say, but I don't know. I just don't like it.
Here's your fist bump, bro.
Yeah, don't be all extra with me like that. I'm trying not to be real angry about it, honestly. Like I'm really
You guys are making this extremely difficult to edit in the
Yeah.
past. I got yelling in the microphones. I got volume changes.
Yeah, but I'm
like,
just
come on,
saying,
guys.
Like he's like, only marry white people and stuff. And it's like, dude, marry who you're gonna marry, do what you're gonna do. I'm all about the country first.
Let me be clear. I don't think it's
And like I
apt
said, I
for
think
you to marry somebody that's not of your race. I agree with Nick when he says it's an ideal situation to marry within your race.
how
Because you're
guess.
preserving a common culture. And I know that pushes buttons because that's personal to you. There's a lot of personal things to me.
Well, I think that Nick is wrong in the fact that in preserving ethnicity, not preserving race, because race is not where the culture exists. And the best way to put this is go look at South Africa, right? Go look at South Africa. It's if you're looking at race in South Africa, you're going to be surprised. The majority of Americans are going to be shocked that there's all these white people in South Africa. Okay, but there's a ton of white people in South Africa.
There's a ton of white
Okay.
people in South Africa, yes.
But that does not change the culture of that ethnicity of South Africans. And when you look at the United States, we fail to understand that American is an ethnicity. Like the American people are their own ethnic group. And the Americans have shot this idea down for so long, right? No, they're African American. No, they're
always hated that.
Asian American.
Definition.
No, they're Native American. No, they're American. And the American culture is what we're trying to preserve and what's being attacked. It's not the white people. It's not the black people. It's the American people.
And a big part of American culture is individuality, is it not? Am I incorrect on that?
It is individuality.
It's a very big thing.
But
Freedom
it's-
and individuality, the accountability of the individual, is a very large part of the American culture. And I believe it's been hindered and destroyed, like this collective crap, and we're rowdy. You know what I mean? Americans are rowdy, individual. I'm gonna have my own freedom. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm going to exercise my freedom. Don't screw with me. Don't bother me. Don't make me fight you, because I will. I want to just live my life, be left alone, and do what I want to do. I will be accountable for my actions. I will spend my time, my energy, my efforts, my labor, my money, my currency, my stuff, and build up what I'm going to build up the way I want to build up. Leave me alone. Let me do what I'm going to do. Let me do what I'm going to do with my family. Let me just be. I always took that as American culture, the freedoms of the individual to exercise them. Is that incorrect? Am I been interpreting it incorrectly? Because I don't like all the groups and all that stuff. I'm a very non-groupy type.
Well, I really want to go back to what Nick is doing, which I think is the main reason why he's in trouble, is he's connecting the dots. I think at the end of the day, if you were to put Nick Fuentes' positions on a piece of paper and present it to the American people, they'd probably check every box. I don't want millions of illegals in my country. I want to preserve a homogenous culture. I want to be able to speak freely. What he's doing is he's connecting all of those symptoms to the root cause, to the disease, and he's saying the mass immigration, the demographic replacement, the globalization, the endless foreign wars, all of this attack on the Christian traditional majority in this country is because of Jewish influence. And he's bringing the receipts. He's saying, look at the media and the culture, look at AIPAC on politics. All of these think tank groups are Israeli run or controlled by Jews. And it's either right or it's wrong. Nobody's debating him on the issues. They're saying, oh, he's saying it too angry or he sounds like a racist. Who cares? If the left is able to push pornography and attack my Lord and mock him on late night TV all day long, then Nick Fuentes should be able to show receipts and connect the dots onto why all this degeneracy is at the feet of Judaism and the Israeli lobby.
I think this kind of goes back to the idea of, and I think I brought it up earlier, and we don't have a whole lot of time left, guys, but there's a really powerful message in what a lot of Nick is doing, but the extra parts and the parts that are very incendiary, that are causing the clickbait, that drive people to him, are also why he is not the right person to bring some of this message mainstream. And we just saw it because the interaction between you and Jim, which I wish I had a camera that zoomed out and had both of you guys in the frame, but that is the reason why Nick, and the way that Nick's doing it, is not necessarily a mainstream way of going about changing hearts and minds of Americans. Because if he were to get rid of some of the incendiary comments that he has, he might not be as popular, but how many more people can be reached with a message that is actually on target and on point?
That's all I got to say about that.
I mean, people go to, it goes back to this, right? People go to Starbucks because they want a cup of coffee. They don't go to Starbucks because they want to be fed political ideology. And when you start feeding political ideology, the people that just wanted a cup of coffee are going to go somewhere else. And so the same applies to content creation.
What day was he number one? Was it yesterday or something, or what was it?
I think it was yesterday.
Okay, so he was number one yesterday for 36 minutes. Is that what you said?
32 minutes.
32
before he was
minutes.
shut down.
How many people was that? How many millions of people was it?
I mean, I don't have that number, but I can find
it. So then why don't all these people get together and they all do a petition of the Spotify? Because if that's that many people, I'm sure they can manipulate things to a degree to get him back on. Speaking of groups. I kind of disagree with your mainstream way. I don't think a mainstream way is a very good way of getting people together to think, but a more cohesive avenue, probably good. But if he's going to attack things, attack all the special interests.
Well, I think
I'm starting to get kind of skeptical with it, with the thing of like, oh, it's only the Jews. And I'm going, is everybody saying this? So I only look at the Jews and not the rest of the mess? Like, I'm starting to kind of get in that avenue of things, to be honest with you on it, because I'm like, is this just to show me this hand of this part of the mess so this other part of the mess can keep making it worse?
So prove them wrong. Do your research and prove us wrong.
No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm starting to just wonder about a lot more things because it's only hearing one directive on it. And I'm not saying anybody's wrong on it. I'm like, yeah, all these special interests are a problem, but hit them all. Hit all of them.
I want to end, I think, where he's been saying this for years, but he got under major fire recently because of what he said about Charlie Kirk, and I'm just going to quote him. They killed Charlie Kirk for being based. They killed him for getting a little too close to the truth. Let what happened to him be a lesson to everyone. This is what happens when you start talking. This is what happens when you threaten their power. This is the price of our patience running out. I don't think that went very well. He also was on record saying they killed Charlie Kirk for being based, for getting a little close to the truth. I have to agree. I think that when you actually look at, and we're not going to get into it today, but if you look at the actual assassination, it does not look like the official narrative. It looks like this was coordinated by a much more organized, powerful group, and it's becoming much more obvious who that group possibly could have been. And it's that same group of people that are probably behind a Spotify ban, and that's where I'll end up with that. We have the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2020.
I believe it's Swedish, by the way, guys.
Oh, Swedish.
We have state level IHRA laws, the Holocaust laws. We have Executive Order 13899, Trump's executive order combating anti-Semitism. Efforts to redefine Semitism in law enforcement. We have a lot of push recently to protect this group of people, and that just adds fuel to the fire, in my opinion.
Well, this has been Spiritual Insurgency. Join us on YouTube and Rumble, as long as we're there, so long as Aaron doesn't get us kicked off or banned. But for right now, we're still on YouTube and Rumble. Join us online, faithfamilyfit.org. Find all the latest content. Thank you. Have a great day. God bless.